Hi everybody, Materim here again with another Kings of War battle report. This one takes place on the same night as my first one and has Michael's Dwarf list, which is the same exact one, facing off against a list of Salamanders I put together. We are using the exact same board because we just wanted to get a couple of quick games in, and I'm going to see if I can learn from my mistakes of the first game. Michael obviously has learned, as you can see, how he deploys his units is much different. He's doing a much more tight deployment than he did during the first game, and he's keeping all of his firepower more centered so he can kind of focus fire a little bit more. So let's see how this turns out different and go over where everything is for each person. Okay, starting on Michael's left, he has his Steel Behemoth. Next to that is his unit of Iron Guard Regiment with the Dwarven Throwing Mastiff and the Dragon Shard Shield. Then he has his cannon. Then in those two units that are stacked almost on top of each other, in the front he has his Iron Watch Rifles with the Brew of Keen-Eyedness. And behind them he has the Iron Guard Regiment with the Dwarven Throwing Mastiffs, two-handed weapons, and the Brew of Strength. In the center, he has an organ gun. Behind that is his Army Standard Bearer. Next is the other unit of Iron Watch Rifles. This one has the Jar of Four Winds. Behind that is his other Iron Guard Regiment with the two-handed weapons, Dwarven Throwing Mastiff, and the Fog. Then he's got another organ gun, and then next to that is his Iron Guard Regiment with the Dwarven Throwing Mastiff and the Crystal Pendant of Retribution. And then holding down his right flank is his King on Large Beast. All right, on my side, we're going to start off with the Gekata Hunters. They have a Chameleon Cloak, and it's just a troop of 10. Next to that is the Kaisenor Lancers troop. They have Dwarven Ale. Behind that is a unit of Ancients, a regiment with the Brew of Courage. Then I have the Enkelodon Battle Platform. Then a use of Gekata Warriors in regiment form. Behind them is a Lekeliodon. Then I've got a unit of Salamander Primes with the Brew of Strength. Then I have a Battle Captain on Rhinosaur. He has the Inspiring Talisman. Behind him is a Mage Priest on a Kelsinor Raptor. I'm just using the old Slann Mage Priest because it's too cool not to use, and there's nothing else in the army that will let me use that model. He also has the Shroud of the Saint on him because healing was so good during my last game. I definitely love the idea of having another 6-die healer. Then I've got a Horde of Tyrants with Blessings of the Gods. A second Lekeliodon. I've got Gekata Sky Raiders, a regiment of those. And then behind them I have a regiment of Ceremonial Guard with the Brew of Sharpness. Alright, so I won the first turn again. I'm deciding to try and make better use of the flank this time, so I send my Sky Raiders off to the side, and everything else advances up. I know he's got a lot of firepower there, so I think I'm in the position where I've just got to get in his face again before he can just shoot me to bits. As you can see here, I advance as much as I really can in the center. Obviously, I'm trying not to throw units away like I did with the Vanguards last game. So I'm trying to keep everything a little tighter together, but he's got a lot of guns coming down my throat, so I've still got to really get in his face before he shoots me to death. And over here, I really don't know a good answer to this Steel Behemoth. And so if anybody has a good one for me, I would certainly appreciate it. At this point, I think I'm just going to sacrifice my hunters to keep it tied up for a little while, I think is the ultimate plan. because the hunters really don't have a whole lot to do. The dwarves have high armor pretty much across the board, and their blowpipes I just don't think are going to be able to get through any of it. So I might as well use them as a sacrificial pawn to keep the behemoth out of any of my other stuff. So we go into, I've got no magic within range, no shooting within range. So we go to the dwarf turn. He moves up a little bit, basically just to put my hunters in range of the breath weapon on the behemoth and get the iron guard there in a good charge position for his next turn. Over here, all he does is just look at me with his king on a bear. He turns his other unit here to look closely. Now, what he did here was a slight bit of mistake, I think, because he moved in such a way that I still have enough room to get into the flank of his unit of Iron Guard there with the Sky Raiders. And since they can fly, they'll go right over his head and essentially keep the king on the bear out of things for a little while. Over here, he does the breath weapon, and I get ridiculously lucky that I only take a single wound on the hunters. But it was enough. He rolls really well, and the hunters decide to get the hell out of Dodge. So there goes my sacrificial pawn, and the steel behemoth is pretty much free to do what it wants to do. He does some shooting here on the Gekata warriors and does a point of damage. And then he unloads with the organ gun into the Salamander primes and does enough damage to rout them. So we go into my turn 2. I decide to go ahead and charge with the Kelsinore Lancers, hoping that with the Thunderous Charge and the Crushing Strength that I can get through and do damage. However, I had kind of forgotten that when I'm hindered, i.e. from running through the forest I had to run through, I take a -1 to hit and lose Thundering Charge. So this was not a smart move to me, mainly due to the fact that I'm still learning the rules and I'm forgetting about this stuff. Sorry for the blurry picture, but I end up deciding to do my charges and go for his 2 organ guns with the Gekata warriors and the Rhinosaur Rider. I've got to stop them from shooting me. He's able to just take a unit off the board each turn, and I still have to get to the meat of his army. You can also see here on the right, I charged the Sky Lancers into the side of his Iron Guard unit. And here's a little bit better picture of this side. I went ahead and advanced things pretty quickly. I want to get those tyrants into the front of one of his units, and because they can do a lot of damage if I can get them there. I think I badly placed them because they were on the other side of the mountain, or other side of the hill, didn't really have a good line, but it stopped him from being able to shoot him, so 50-50 there. But these guys are about a turn away from being useful. I end up doing the breath with the Lekeliodon and end up inflicting a single wound on his king on a beast. I hit the other Lekeliodon into his rifleman here and inflict 4 wounds, but I am not rolling high enough to rout or waver him. I do nothing to the tank, I don't think. Oh wait, there might be a die back there. I might have done 1 wound to the tank, but it was not well done at all. So I bounce off, and now those Lancers are pretty much going to get served up on a plate. The Gekata warriors do... I don't know why they have a waver token on them. This must be on his next turn. I must have missed some turns. But yeah, they did 4 wounds to the cannon and then bounced off of it. And then I think he let loose some dogs on me this turn and did a wound and wavered me. The Rhinosaur dude also bounced off the cannon, did some wounds. And I only did 3 wounds to the Iron Guard unit, and they bounced off as well. The Sky Hunters or Sky Raiders. So I didn't really do much other than put his stuff in, or put a little bit of wounds on him, and it just really didn't help much. And I'm in a really bad position. I kind of needed to be able to kill those cannons and push through, and that just did not happen. So he decides on his turn to run the king on a bear outside of my line of sight. Again, I think because the king on a bear is not an individual, he only gets one 90-degree turn if he moves and none if he marches. So I don't think he thought about that because he left him over here with like nothing to look at. And it's going to take him another turn to get back into the combat. But again, it's mistakes being made just because we're still learning the rules. But you can see here he did make a charge with the Iron Guard unit into the flank of my Rhinosaur Rider. He does a combo charge into the flank and the front of the Gekata Warriors, and those guys are just toast because there's just nothing. I mean, they're a pretty bad unit. They're kind of just a sacrificial little chaffy unit to begin with, as far as I can tell. And there's no way they're going to hold up to a combined charge from the Dwarves. He managed to do this by basically moving his cannon out of the way. So at least because he moved it, he doesn't get to shoot it this turn. And I don't have to worry about it for another turn, and it's out of position. There's not a whole lot that it's pointing at that it can shoot at. And over here, combined charge into the Lancers like I pretty much assumed. It will take a miracle to keep them alive as well, I think. He opens up on the cannon on my Ankleodon. He actually did 7 wounds, but then when he rolled the nerve check, there was I was totally fine, and Iron Resolved kicked in, so I healed 1 of those wounds. But still, 6 sitting on them is not a good thing. And then we go into close combat, and of course, these 2 units just absolutely crush the crush the Lancers. I think he did something like 12 or 13 wounds on me and did not oblige me by rolling double ones, so they're gone. And this is what he looks like after that. I'm not sure why he didn't reform instead of pushing forward with the Steel Behemoth, but I guess maybe his plan is to come around the forest and get me in the side, though it's going to take a little while with the slow movement of that thing. Obviously, here in close combat, the Gekata Warriors get picked up. Out. Oops. I moved back. Yeah, over here, he lucked out, or I lucked out, rather. He only did 3 wounds to my Rhinosaur Rider and didn't waver or rout him, so I'm still alive for another turn. And I think I'm going to surprise him here with the lateral countercharge, because I need to get back in. And those Iron Guard are just, I've got so much ready to just mess them up that I should be able to take them off the board next turn. And that's exactly what I try to do. I charge everything I've got at it, and I also take the Sky Raiders after the cannon that's there, hoping to start picking them up. Over here, I charge my Ancients into his other unit of Iron Guard, and I send the Ankleodon after his cannon, because, sorry, the organ guns are the ones that are on the right. I send the Ankleodon after his cannon, and then I move my Mage Priest close enough so that I can throw a heal on the Ankleodon and hopefully get it battle-worthy again. I end up throwing... Oh, yeah, okay, so I end up shooting the Lekeliodon here into this unit of Iron Guard, I do 7 wounds and then roll double sixes on my route check or on my nerve check and route them. So that certainly helps take some of the pressure off of this midpoint in the board. I only do 1 wound on the oh no, sorry. I did kill the other organ gun. So I routed that and then I overran and I'm like an inch away from this organ gun. So definitely starting to peel away his range threats at this point. And then over here, I can't believe it. I forgot that this was the unit that had the Crystal of Retribution on it. So I just absolutely beat it silly, route it, and then it explodes. It does 8 wounds to my Rhinosaur Rider, 6 wounds to my Ceremonial Guard, and 5 wounds to my Tyrant. Holy shit. Wow, that is an amazing item. And I'm stupid because I helped him put it in the unit and then completely forgot about it, that it was there. So I really didn't need all 3 of those units. What I probably should have done is left the Rhinosaur Rider out of the fight altogether, because the Tyrants and the Ceremonial Guard were more than enough to take care of the unit. But I'm now in really bad shape, and I'm going to need some major healing over there to really do anything. Downside is unlike my last army, I only have 1 model that can heal, and it's going to take a while to get kind of things back to normal over here, if I can do it at all. So I end up, the Ancients do pretty good in routing his Iron Guard in the middle. And the Angliodon fluffs and bounces, or does 3 wounds, but not enough to stop the cannon, and bounces off them. And that's what he pays for. So the cannon moves out of the way, and in comes everything on the Angliodon battle platform, so it's probably going to go away. The bear reforms because he realizes he can't move and get anything in line of sight. So next turn, I need the Ceremonial Guard not to be there, because with them already having 6 wounds, taking this king on a bear in the back is just not good for their long-term life goals. Over here, he moves the Steel Behemoth over a little bit and puts him in range of breath weaponing my Ancients. Over here, he shoots with the organ gun on the Gekata Sky Raiders and puts 3 wounds on them. And obviously, the poor Ankylodon battle platform is not going to withstand a combined charge by a total third of his entire army. So it goes away. And he reforms like this. You can also see the breath weapon didn't do much on the Ancients. They only took 1 wound total from it. So over here, my turn, I decide to help get the Ceremonial Guard out of the way. I charge them and the Lecheliasaur into that final organ gun. I charge my Sky Raiders into his Standard Bearer. I charge the Rhinosaur Rider and the Ancients into his Iron Guard there. And then I turn the Ancients and the other Lecheliodon to deal with the king coming forward. He's got a lot of armor on him, so I'm really hoping that the crushing strength from the Tyrants will help me get through there. I also reposition my Mage Priest a little bit so he can throw his healing on anything that needs it. I end up breathing on the Bear Rider and do 2 wounds on him with the Lecheliodon. Obviously, my guys over here are going to absolutely crush the cannon. Trying to remember, I think I did some healing on the Tyrants during my healing phase, and that was it. During close combat, we obviously crushed the hell out of the... Oh no, this wasn't the Iron Guard, this was the Riflers. So I crushed the hell out of the Riflers unit. and back up with my Rhinosaur and reform a little bit with my Ancients so that none of this stuff is in my flanks. I do only a single wound on his army battle standard bearer and bounce off with the Sky Raiders. They're good at harassing stuff, but I don't think they've got the punch power to get through some of these higher armor targets. So dwarf turn, and the bear comes in to the tyrants. Now I guess he's still got wounds on him. I don't know what I did with the mage this turn. I had to have healed something, but I just don't recall what it is. I really hope I didn't forget to heal. That would have been really stupid now that I've checked it out. But yeah, so the bear's going to come into the tyrants. He can do a few wounds, but I'm still feeling they're pretty good. My only problem here is they are just outside of the inspiring range of the Rhinosaur Rider. This is another issue where I was really used to the way Warhammer and Ninth Age did it. I was thinking I had more of an aura due to the fact that it's large and on a monster for that, but I don't. It's still only 6 inches. So they're going to be kind of on their own if things go bad here. He also decides to split his units up. He's sending one unit of his Iron Guard with the great weapons into my Ceremonial Guard, the other one into the Ancients. Now, I'm thinking the Ceremonial Guard are probably in a bit of trouble, but the Ancients, they're fine. And I'm actually thinking, because he's got to charge me, he's going to be hindered. And I don't waver with these guys, and they have a 17 with the inspiring next to him. So I'm actually thinking of just leaving them here as a tar pit and not counterattacking if they survive, just so that he has to keep charging me through the hindering terrain and making it harder for him to hurt me while keeping those guys tied up. So that's kind of my plan at this point. Over here, he marches through his, or not marches through, he moves up his steel behemoth so that he can find something to shoot with his breath weapon. He ends up doing some shooting and puts a few more wounds on the Rhinosaur Rider, which is enough to rout it, and there goes my inspiring. And holy crap, he did like 5 or 6 more wounds to the tyrants and routed them as well. So things are collapsing on both sides of the field for me now. Then he ran up because he wants to get a piece of my mage. As I pretty much predicted, he ends up pretty easily routing the Ceremonial Guard. And you can see he overruns. Over here, he does 2 more wounds to the Ancients. They're fine, and he has to bounce back a bit. So I definitely think now that I'm running out of units, I definitely think I want to use these guys to hold this unit down and see if I can pepper and fireball some stuff out of the way and hopefully make up for my point deficit at this point. So my turn, I decide to go ahead and say forget the banner bearer and leapfrog over him to take out this cannon before it can kill anything else. I also think I messed up here. I moved my guy backwards, and I forgot that when he gets on a mount, he's not individual anymore. So I'm pretty sure this was an illegal move with my mage here. But again, it's something we're learning. You can also see the Dwarf King is off the bear. The reason for that is he got up there, and I fireballed the living hell out of him and ended up killing him. Close combat, I take out the cannon and reform as such. And then we go to dwarf turn. He turns his Iron Guard here to look at the hill. Reforms his behemoth to look at my flyers and runs his character around behind them. At least Yeah. So he runs his character around behind him. And, oh, and he also charges the Ancients with his other Iron Guard unit. He ends up breath weaponing the Sky Raiders and looks like puts 2 more wounds on them. And then in combat, he puts a few more wounds on the Ancients, but they're still holding out, and he backs off. Now, I definitely messed this one up, because I ended up essentially... again, I'm not... I know with the Nimble, you essentially, from the flight, you only get 2 turns. I essentially just flew... Oh, no. I flew backwards over this guy. That's what I did. So... that ended up, because he was close enough behind me, I flew backwards and landed with the ability to shoot him in the face. So having 5 inches of backwards movement is pretty awesome. I figure what I'm going to try and do is just blowgun the character and pick up a couple points. So I do during shooting, I get him up to 6 wounds, and he wavers, but I missed routing him by a point. This must be Dwarf turn. Does he... Oh, no. This shows the battle. The Iron Guard do some wounds on the Ancients again, but they still can't rout me, and they back off. Oh, no. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. Never mind. That was... the Lecheliodon there had shot the Steel Behemoth and did some damage. This other Lecheliodon shoots and does 2 wounds to these Iron Guard. So then on his turn, he charges the Steel Behemoth into the Sky Raiders, and they're going bye-bye. Charges the Iron Guard into the Ancients again. I must have been able to heal them last turn. Yeah, that must have been what, because they had more wounds on that. So that's what I did with magic, is I healed them. But, so yeah, they charge back in, and I'm holding them down, so I'm feeling pretty good about that, but I don't think the Ancients are going to do anything, because I'm not counterattacking him. And then he reforms here, deciding that he's got a better chance at getting this Lecheliodon than he does my guy. Now, this is turn 6, so he's basically just hoping for a turn 7 to take him in the back and finish him off. So over here, he does 3 more wounds to the Ancients, not enough to break, and they get pushed off, so my tar pit has been completely successful. The tank, however, makes very, very short work of the Sky Raiders, and they run off for greener pastures. And he reforms like this, hoping for a turn 7. So we do not get a turn 7, and when we do the points up, we both were pretty much eliminated with a few differences. So the point difference was 185 points in Michael's favor. So I ended up avoiding a loss by 15 points. Wow, okay. The Dwarves are awesome. I still don't know how to deal with the Steel Behemoth. I don't think I had anything in here that could handle it. Maybe if I had landed a direct charge with the Rhinosaur Rider before he shot me to pieces, I could have done it. But the thing has such a high nerve score, I really have to focus on it. And if I'm focusing on that, then his artillery is going to blow me to Kingdom Come. So I'm really not sure how to handle that. I like this list, I think, a lot better than I like the elf list. I mean, I always love my Salamanders now, because I really think they're like my best painted army, so it's really fun to put them on the board. I like the big monsters, though I really have to get it through my skull that they're not as indestructible as brutal as they were in other systems. I really need to work on more of a combined arms thing. I need more shooting or maybe more magic. I kind of like the idea that they're so cheap that just buying a bunch of the mage priests and running like crazy and just fireballing everything into non-existence, because 10 dice on that is really, really good. Um, so that makes me pretty happy. The Lacheliodons were pretty solid. My Ancients, they are an amazing tar pit unit, but only doing 12 attacks. I don't know that they're great offensively. Um, the Gekata Warriors are either useless or I don't understand how I'm supposed to use them. They're just too soft. They die too easy. And they're only a 5 up to hit in combat, so they're really not going to do any damage to anybody. So I don't know if they're just intended as like chap units or what the deal is. I have definitely been shown, without a doubt, that the Crystal of Retribution is fucking amazing. Particularly if your opponent is dumb like me and forgets which unit it's in and charges half of his army at them. So I think if I had paid more attention to what was going on, I definitely would have done better. But I am really enjoying this game. One of the things, and I mentioned this to Michael, I'm kind of happy I'm not winning. And that sounds weird, but with both Warhammer and Ninth Age, I was the best player in our group by a pretty significant margin. So the games weren't as challenging. And I don't mean to say that to toot my own horn or anything, but most of the time, I would say at least 75 to 80% of the time when I sat down, I was going to win the game. And that could get boring pretty quick. So the fact that I played 2 games and I lost one and almost lost the second makes me feel happy, because it makes me feel like I've got something to learn about the game and there's a challenge there. So I'm really enjoying it. Michael said he loves it. I think he's absolutely in love with the Steel Behemoth. He says it's going in every list. And he likes the way the dwarves play here. They're good in combat. They're pretty much everything he's looking for. Though after some talk, he does want to build a historical Vikings army because he is a super Vikings nut. So I'm wondering when he's going to get to that, but. He also says, because he didn't realize that you could do allied races until our first game, so he's thinking about doing some, like adding some splash of elves to his dwarf force and kind of seeing what he comes up with from there. But we are actually so interested in keep doing this. We're going to have another gaming night the night right after this. So hopefully I'll have some more battle reports very soon. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this. I also want to take a moment and apologize for the sort of unpolished nature of the first battle report I posted. It had been a while since I did one of these, and I found myself kind of stumbling over the unit names, the terminology from the game and stuff like that. So hopefully as I learn more, I'm going to get a little bit better at putting together these battle reports and making them more interesting. But if anyone has any advice on any changes I might make to the Salamander list, or any kind of tactical things I might have messed up other than the one illegal move with the Salamander, or the Mage Priest, I would certainly appreciate that. And if anybody has any use for the Gekata Warriors, that would be helpful as well. So hope you guys enjoyed this one, and we'll catch you on the next one.